There was days they printed 2 million records a day. Some
2
days,
million
2 million records a day.
To be absolutely honest with you, if it had been left solely up to me, the power would never have been released.
I was balled up. I started crying. Honestly, I started crying, and I was like, that's not fair.
He beat up 8 drag queens at an important AIDS benefit. That is career suicide.
This was the point where we said, this is not going to work anymore.
Exterminate!
1992, the year I was born, and Eurodance stormed the charts in Europe and far beyond. My love for music has always been huge, but I used to see Eurodance as music for cheesy parties. Until I found out that these tracks laid the foundation for a lot of the music and sound we hear today. Did we here in the Netherlands actually appreciate these artists? Were these Dutch acts back then just as big as Coldplay and Beyoncé are now? And how is it that these artists are still performing all over the world with their 90s hits? That's what I want to find out in this series. This episode is all about Snap.
Американская фирма Transceptor Technology приступила к производству компьютеров «Персональный спутник».
Snap is one of the biggest Eurodance acts of the 90s. Snap had 2 #1 hits in the Netherlands, The Power and Rythm is a Dancer. In 1992, this even became the biggest hit of the year in the top 40. 5 years ago, it turned out they had not been forgotten in the Netherlands and vice versa. They performed together with the Toppers in a packed Johan Cruyff Arena. But it all started with 2 friends from Frankfurt, Michael and Luca. They are musical pioneers and have greatly influenced today's dance music with their work. I am meeting the men in a museum entirely dedicated to the history of dance music.
We always wanted to do something new. The idea was not to follow other people's ideas.
That was always our motivation, to do something that was ours and new. I got hooked on music. With about 15 and 16, I built my own DJ mixer. It was just passion for music.
In '77, I came to America and I was in New York when Studio 54 opened.
That was a really hard club to get into.
Nobody came in. There was sometimes in winter people outside, 2,000 people waiting. People wanted to go in. This was disco time. I left New York and came back to Germany. And there was also the disco fever going on. It was '79. So Dorian Gray opened. By this time you had Palace in Paris, you had Limelight in London. You had all these big clubs. They was adapted from Studio 54.
So you guys were DJs in the 80s. What kind of time was that like?
Well,
disco time.
That was basically the main reason why we got into making music, because we felt there wasn't enough music around that we could play in the club. So we said, then we need to make our own music that we can play in the club. Korg MS-10 was my first synthesizer.
Smaller keyboard. It was smaller, the whole place.
And bigger.
We hang out together and we started to make music at my house. We had the first sampler. I think nobody had a sampler at this time, so we did a lot of experiments. We used
a boot.
A boot.
On a wooden floor for a bass drum.
Really?
Yeah, and things like that. And the good thing is that we always had a chance when I went to work in the club that we could play our stuff and check it out, how the crowd will react. And then in the, I think, '85, we started to make really much more music.
The 512, and that has been our working horse
For a long time.
for a very long time.
So at this time we met Sven Fate, And we became buddies. We were hanging out all the time together. And then we said, let's do a record. Let's do a video.
Bad news, bad news.
And in the night, we had the tape, and we went to the DJ. We went to Dorian Gray, and we asked the guy, can you play it? And he put it on, and he played it, and it was really magic. So people said that we developed new beat.
Yeah, because you can really hear the bass as well in that song that you still hear in songs right now.
Yes.
So that was really funny to see that it all started already.
Yeah, I mean, this was the first really good song we did in our new studio at this time. We did not have a label. We printed the record by ourselves. And on the back of the record was Master Studios, Offenbach, with the
telephone number.
Yeah?
The phone did not stop ringing. All the record shops from Germany called us. Oh, we have this record here, where we can have it. We said, we print it, we send you.
Together with Sven Väth, now a legend in the techno scene, they score an even bigger hit, Where Are You? The success is becoming too big to keep fabricating the LPs by themselves.
We had to go for distribution. We shopped all the record labels.
And one of the first questions was always, yeah, are you musicians? No, we're DJs. Oh, sorry, there's the door. So they did not understand how important the DJ was in producing music at that time. So I believe that we opened a lot of doors for everyone else.
The two decide to start their own record label, Logic Music.
For us, it was an emergency situation to get our records released.
We wanted our own platform to release our own music because we felt that the industry did not understand us.
The power.
We were one of the very first independent record labels what only went for dance music.
Ba 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 ba.
In '88, we did Electrica Salsa with Sven. So he came to the studio. We worked a lot together at this time. We always said, come to the studio, and we are just doing some fun. And one day when we had this nice track, and Sven suddenly started to do ba 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 ba. The record was so
blew up. Yeah.
I think we were 6 weeks #1 in France.
Italy was
#1. We everywhere #1.
Electrica Salsa.
In '89, I bought with Sven the club in Frankfurt. It was called Vogue, and we changed it into Omen. And I was DJing, Sven was DJing. But then, beginning of the 90s, there was something like techno coming. Sven one day said, let's make a techno party. And we did it, and it was completely crazy. And then at the end, Sven said, let's make a techno club. And I said, oh, I'm not sure if we do that. You know, but we did it, and it became the mecca of techno in Europe. Sven said, look, that's my life, to be a DJ. Because we said, let's become producers. We will spend our time in the music studio. And he said, no, I want to be a DJ.
Michael and Luca are becoming very successful with their club and their own record label, and that turns out to be a real hit machine. They managed to create one successful song after another, but they also realized that this way they are spending all their time making songs for other artists.
In the beginning of the 90s, end of the 80s, we were doing too much for our own record label. And one day we said, okay, it's over, guys. We will close our studio. You will not come to us anymore with any demos, anything. We are going back to do our own music.
Warum wir hier sind, ist genau das Studio. Das ist der Grund, warum wir überhaupt Musik machen und warum wir überhaupt irgendwie etwas kreieren, ist der Spaß, hier zu sitzen.
So we went back to the studio, we closed, and it was really some kind of relief. Nobody came anymore because we hang a big sign outside, don't disturb.
Do not disturb.
And we started to, for the first time, we had so much energy and we had so much fun to come back to our creations. And after 1 week, we had the power.
Yeah!
There's a function in the sequencer called snap.
And when we finished the track, The Power, Michael said, what shall we call this? And we both looked up at the same time and pointed to Snap.
We used a guitar sound and we put it on a sampler and we cut it. In the night when we had the instrumental of the Power. Wow, it's so cool. I had this record from Jocelyn Brown, Love Is Gonna Get You, and we heard it, but there was this one part where she sings,
I've got the power to make it through the hour and blah, 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 whatever.
We heard it and I said, that's so cool, let's cut it out. And we put it in, it was so perfect, so we let it run for hours. We had so much fun.
We were hypnotized by the loop. I remember we used to listen to it like just listen.
The guys also sample a bit of rap from Chill Rob G. They make a demo of the record, a so-called white label.
Don't say this, don't say that, change your lyrics. Everybody's a critic. It's getting kind of hectic. My rhyme is authentic, so it shall remain. My writing exciting, never mundane.
So we used it to finish the song for us. This was our intention. We want to hear how is the sound
with the rap.
How with the rap, with everything.
But it wasn't meant to be released because they still want to add their own vocals and rap to it.
I think in 2 days we hit the breakout charts, #1. And we listened to the white label and said, oh my God, are you crazy? This is not what we want to release. We cannot. It's not cleared. There is no samples cleared.
No, because it was made out of samples. So, and you didn't have the permission.
Suddenly people had these white labels. It was getting around. It came somehow to America. And suddenly
it went viral, I would say.
Michael and Luca need to get to work quickly to create their own version with singing and rap.
We needed a female vocal, and there was Chaka Khan was in Frankfurt on tour. Oh yeah, you know, maybe we can get Chaka Khan to come in and sing. I said, yeah, that would be really great. And then Chaka Khan said, oh well, some German producers, no, not really interesting. Penny, you go.
Penny Ford, who comes from Cincinnati, is 26 years old and has already had quite a musical life.
The only thing I wanted to do was meet and work with Chaka Khan. So I spent a great deal of my life just trying to link up with her.
Penny knows every song by Chaka Khan by heart and meets her in an interesting place.
She and I kind of met up in the toilet. You know what I mean? I went to the bathroom. She came in and she said, do you do drugs? I was like, she was like, you're a liar. Well, some choice words, you're a liar. And we've just been best friends ever since then.
And when Penny is on tour in Europe with Chaka Khan, she gets that unexpected phone call in Germany.
These German guys called Chaka and asked if she wanted to be a part of this project. And, you know, basically she just said, no, I don't do rap. You go do it. I mean, it was the worst thing I've ever sang, ever. Like, I didn't write anything down. I literally told the producers, give me a pack of cigarettes and a bottle of champagne, which is the same thing that I did today. And turn on the mic.
So what did you think about the song?
Honestly, I thought it was noise. I didn't understand it, couldn't relate to it, and to be absolutely honest with you, if it had been left solely up to me, the Power would never have been released. I didn't want my friends to hear it, and I was just like, I'll never be invited to the musician's picnic ever again. What is this?
Then a rap also had to be added to the track. The producers ended up with the American Duron Maurice Butler, alias Turbo B, but he was completely unknown back then. He lives and works in Miami, where I was able to speak to him via a video call.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good.
So I want to start with you at the beginning. So how was your confidence level meeting them?
I was a battle rapper because I was like a gunfighter on the mic. And when I got there, you know, I met them and they played the Power, and they said, well, what do you think? And I was like, all right. And it wasn't even about Eurodance. For me, it was just a hard hip hop beat. And I sat there and I think it was like 15, 20 minutes. And I said, all right, I'm ready. And they was like, okay. went in the booth, put on the headphones. When I spit that first, like the crack of the whip, I snap attack, front to back.
Like the crack of the whip, I snap attack, front to back, in this thing called rap.
And when it was all said and done, they stopped it, and everybody else who was sitting, you know, in the room was just like, wow, like this is gonna be something special. And the rest is history.
So please stay on my back, or I will attack, and you don't want that.
And with Turbo B's rap added, the new version of The Power can be released, and then things suddenly move very fast.
And it was a week later #1 in England. This is the dream of every artist, to become #1 in England. And we suddenly find ourselves, bah.
Yes.
We had no video, we had nothing. So we run to London, made a video.
In the music video, Turbo B is featured, but Penny is not. She wanted nothing to do with the song, so we see Turbo's niece, Jackie Harris, lip-syncing to Penny's voice.
They asked if I would like to have anything to do with it, and I said, no, don't call me. It's annoying still to this day. She is in the history books. I'm the only actual singer on the record.
The power!
It is going very fast. In no time, Turbo has to be on top of the pops.
And the new #1 record is The Power. And it's starting, I'm just like, oh my God, one phone mom, or the other phone lawyer. So
she realized that it was #1 in the UK, and then she definitely wanted to be part of Snap.
it was right in the nick of time because I really needed the money, and it was amazing. It's God moment. One thing I do understand is that I'm not the superstar. The songs are the superstars.
The power of that record is unprecedented. Later, CNC Music Factory came out with Gonna Make You Sweat, Everybody Dance Now, and for me, that is exactly the same. It has the same vibe. And when you look at Snap, you can still turn up the power. The roof will still blow off.
And then it is also time for Penny to meet Turbo for the first time.
It was time to do the Oops Up videos. It was awkward. like I had been in the business for a long time, and he didn't. And I think he thought that this was an opportunity for him to like boss some people around and do that kind of thing, but he couldn't do that with me.
We weren't like put together as a group. She didn't want to be a part of it until we did the video in London. Penny would be up there singing, and you know, I was just amazed. You know, this little person had such a big voice.
Penny, there's Turbo, we did an album, and let's send them on stage.
I'm MC Turbo B, live in Leipzig, and this is Snap.
We did Leipzig, East Germany, for 350,000 people who'd never seen a concert. Nobody had ever prepared him for things actually becoming successful. He was a little fearful, so it allowed me to be able to take over the stage.
I remember when we did the deal with him, when we signed him, they wanted to have the money in cash. We met, and he was sitting there with 2 other guys, and we brought this back.
How much?
A couple of hundred thousand it was. So it was really a lot of cash. And so he signed, and then they all suddenly talked about that's their money.
It's their money.
How's that for Turbo?
There'll be new money coming in.
Yeah.
It's like somebody puts you on a rocket and shoots you to the moon, and you're not prepared.
Money comes in. How does that work? A 23-year-old with a lot of money.
Exactly. How does it work? How does it work? And unfortunately, you know, when you are just used to being a B-boy and you're into hip-hop or whatever. I was from the streets. And when you from the streets, all you know is the streets. We was, partying, popping bottles. If Prince or Terrence Trent D'Arby or, people like that coming to town, I was on the same level.
They topped the dance charts around the world with the first single titled The Power. Apollo, let's give a warm welcome to Penny Ford, Turbo Ben, also known as Snap.
I was shocked that America actually got into it as well. We did like the Apollo. 9 times out of 10, you're gonna get booed, That's a tough crowd. It's a tough crowd. But we had the #1 record, but Turbo thought we were like in the booing category. So if you see the video, he never comes out from behind the timbales, which gave me a chance to just do the whole stage. So I just took over the whole stage on that one too. I think that's another reason why he had to present as this big, tough guy, because he was so scared. Because it was a lot. It was a lot to happen for a human being at the time.
The success is unstoppable. The producers already have the next singles ready for release.
And this one is also an instant hit.
Cult of Snap! Except for some minor irritations between Penny and Turbo, nothing seems to stand in the way of their success, especially when Cult of Snap also becomes a hit. But then everything goes wrong during a performance at an AIDS gala in Detroit.
When you pull up in the limousine and there are 2 guys out front making out and the club is called Buddies, you gotta be an idiot not to know what you're walking into. Of course, we knew what we were walking into. The problem was, after we did the show, and as we walked from the stage, we were getting groped and, getting our asses grabbed and whatever, and the security did nothing. I voiced my opinion, and somebody went and got the owner of the club, and he came in and started poking me in my chest, saying, if you don't like my clientele, whatever. I said, it's not about your clientele, it's about your security didn't take care of us after we got off. Well, if you don't like it, and he just kept poking and poking and poking. Well, one of those pokes ended up in my face, and all hell broke loose. Then the security wanted to be security. I got pushed into a corner and fought my way out, basically.
He beat up 8 drag queens at an important AIDS benefit. That is career suicide.
And all of a sudden, Snap became a gay-bashing band.
And there are drag queens diving from everywhere, and Turbo's throwing them off his back. It literally was like a Godzilla movie. Something like that happening now would, probably land him in jail. It almost did then.
Basically, he got canceled, right?
Yes, exactly.
It did have a lot of consequences for you.
It did, because it made me look like the bad guy. And in that situation, I was not.
And it cost us, a lot of money, a lot of fans, a lot of, there were literally people picketing our shows in America.
Don't buy Snap. Snap is a gay-bashing band and all.
But Snap keeps touring the world.
They've had 5 top 10 singles from their debut album, World Power. Will you welcome Snap?
Due to the incident during the benefit concert, the bond between Penny and Turbo B continues to deteriorate, and meanwhile, the producers must produce a second album.
Yeah, so this was the kind of fate between the second album. It was a very hard time. You have this huge, successful album with a song like The Power, and you doubt, and you said, can you ever do something like this in your life again?
During that turbulent period, producers Luca and Michael look for a way to give Snap a new sound.
The music was confusing. Techno, you know, this. There was a lot of, in 1991, 92, there was so much music coming together. And we don't want to make techno. We don't want to make hip-hop anymore. We said we want to have something else in between. Before, we always adapted music from America, but this was the first time we said, no, we will create something here. We had this melody, and I always brought it back, and we tried it, and we tried it. And then one day we left, we closed the studio, and we were at the door, and I said, Luca, I have an idea. Let's just check it. So we went back, switched off the machines again, and I played the melody half of the speed it was before. And suddenly, wow, it was perfect. So we did it. I think in this night we were almost, it was winter, we had our coats on, and we went back and we left the studio at the morning 6, 7, 8 or something, and the song was done. Everything was done.
Instrumental version.
The instrumental version was completely done, and we always loved it.
And while the producers work on what will become their biggest hit, Penny makes a drastic decision.
I was being treated like a backing singer. That's why it was easy for me to walk away. I was just like, I'm out of here. I've been doing this too long to be treated like this. I didn't realize I was walking away from all my money.
Penny is leaving, but she will stay in touch with Michael and Luca. She is helping write new songs and assisting in finding a new singer.
We were in need of a new female singer.
We always kept Penny in the loop. She was also involved in writing.
In writing.
So there was not that she was still part of the team.
And she brought Thea.
On the pleasant evening, Penny meets Thea Austin, an R&B singer from Pittsburgh. She ends up at Penny's house with a good friend. At that moment, they know Penny is looking for a new singer for Snap, and that friend cleverly takes advantage of it.
He put my music on. Had he not put my music on, she would not have heard it. Everything happened organically.
And I said, you got a passport? She said, yeah. 3 days later, she was in Germany.
So when I met them, the energy was perfect. We had such a good time, you know, with Penny, with Michael, with Luca.
You know, I was supposed to come over and write.
But I never had a job opportunity like that in my life, so I didn't want to muck it up, you know. And I was just like, dear divine Holy Spirit, give me something that people could feel.
So, you know, getting to like Rythm as a dancer, I had put down a vocal on there. And I needed an ear break, you know.
Please give me something that the people can feel. Like I surrender to the music, I surrender to the spirit, the feeling of it.
She listened to the song, we played it to her, said, come on, write something.
And then I really heard it. Rythm is a dancer, and then and I was like, it's a what? You know, I had to ask. Honestly, I had to ask out loud, it's a what? And then I heard soul's companion. Like, it's a soul's companion. People feel it everywhere. Lift your hands and voices was almost like praise, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it was coming from the soul, it's coming from the spirit. Lift your hands and voices and free your mind and join us. You can feel it in the air. It's a passion. That's where it was coming from. I didn't think about it.
We were really...
That was on the money.
What is this? And I don't know how she came up with it, but she did it. And when we listened to it, it was really massive, 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 because it's also all these things, it's so perfect. And
she came up with this on the spot.
On the spot. She wrote, I think, in 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
She wrote it.
She wrote the line.
That's all I can say. It was meant for me, and I know where it came from. It came from spirit, so.
You know,
usually the spontaneous first idea is always the best.
I walked outside for 15 minutes, and when I came back in, she had that hook, Rythm as a Dancer, hooked down, so. It was a magical moment for her, because they took my part off, so it became that song. So I took an ear break, and cost me probably millions.
Rythm is a dancer, it's a source companion. People feel it everywhere. Lift your hands and voices, free your mind and join us. You can feel it in the air.
Yes, personally, I think Snap is the absolute coolest Eurodance act that has ever existed. That is where it started for me, too. It was Sports Day in 1992, and the DJ there suddenly played Rythm, is a dancer across that huge field with that really cool bass line in it. And I still remember thinking, wow, I want to make music myself, but how? How did they do this? Years later, I finally found out how they built that track. That bass line is a story in itself, but the beginning. The opening part of the song comes from another track by Nucleus O Romain, a completely unknown piece. Much faster too than how you know it, but you recognize the melody. It almost sounds like happy hardcore right away. With a singer you don't even know at all. But they came up with the idea to play it an octave lower, and then you get this. And the stupid thing is, this doesn't even sound this also sounds like it's being played too low, but they added this to it. And all of a sudden, it's finished. And I think that's so cool. Samples and Snap. They were very skilled at it and scored some huge hits with them.
But remarkably, the first single from the new album is not Rhythm is a Dancer, but Color of Love. Written by Penny, sung by Thea, and still rapped by Turbo.
And we expected much more from this
Yes.
song.
I actually believe that that was
a big hit.
A big hit.
But it was not. It was number 10 in England.
Yeah.
What was for us, it was oh my God, number 10. We don't
only
want
top 10.
Actually, Michael and Luca do not plan to release Rhythm as a Dancer.
Beginning of '92, I was still DJing in Oman. And at this time, my wife came. She said, oh, can you not play Rhythm as a Dancer? This track, I love it. I said, it does not fit here. I said, can I play it? I said, okay. I play it. The people came to the dance floor. And after the song was finished, about 30, 40 people were standing and said, what did you play? And, you know, I'm a DJ and I know when this is happening, this is a big hit. And I said, this is going to be our next record.
And whether it becomes a hit, the single reached the #1 position in no fewer than 17 countries.
Here's a dancer!
Snap, now consisting of Thea and Turbo, is taking over the world again.
It was like an impact we could not believe. It was the most successful record in 1992 in Europe. There was days they printed 2 million records a day.
2 million records a day.
A day.
È il momento di Turbo B!
Despite the success, Turbo also decides to leave Snap, but still, he does perform Snap's hits together with Thea, but he does that on his own.
So I want to talk about Turbo.
T-Bear.
I think you're the first person that called him T-Bear.
That's my baby, though, no matter what. That's my boo.
How was your relationship with Turbo? Was it good from the beginning?
It was good. It was good, and it, you know, everybody's got their growing pains, you know.
This is my show. I ask the questions. Get off my show. Come on.
I think it was a different time for him. You know, people mature at different stages and phases in life. He had a tough way about him, you know, but learning him as I did, he had a very soft side.
The next single to be released is Exterminate, a song that Thea wrote, but at that moment, she is touring the world with Turbo, so Michael and Luca cannot reach her. The result is that they choose another singer, Nikki Harris.
I found out that they have tried to reach me and I missed the opportunity. Yes, I was sad. Yeah, it was heartbreak for me. So I missed a good opportunity. But also at the same time, Nikki Harris came in and blessed it up. I still get paid for it. I'm still the writer. I still get paid. So, you know, I can only be but so sad that it wasn't me.
I think we had 50 versions.
It was very crazy.
Really tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you think nothing is good enough. Terminate was very successful. It was #2 in England.
Michael en Luca hebben niet alleen succes met hun muziek. Ook hun platenlabel Logic Records gaat door het dak.
We built up Logic Records. In Frankfurt we had about 30, 20 people.
Yeah.
Then we opened the office in London and we had all the 90s acts came to our label. It was Hathaway, Rosala, Dr. Alban.
It's my life. It's my life, my world.
Everybody in the 90s was in our record label and it became huge. You know, we were really thinking, oh my God, this is not what we wanted, you know, to manage and to be in such a, you know, environment where you suddenly have offices around the world.
It becomes sort of a burden at some stage.
Yeah.
Because you have then a lot of pressure that you have to deliver. We got a tape. And it was just an instrumental, and it was a piano track. And in our A&R meeting, people started saying, oh, we need to change the bass drum, we need to do this. Oh, and it's only instrumental, it's a piano house, it's no good. We noticed that our company started sliding in the same
way like the big
scheme, like the big record companies. So we ended up not doing the record. And you know which track it was? It was Robert Miles, Children.
No!
Yes. Yeah. That is crazy.
That must have been a wake-up call.
Yes.
No, yeah, okay.
And after that...
We sold it.
The two sell their record label and head back into the studio for the third album.
We really were in trouble.
Because you had success, and then you had success again.
I think
with
this was the
singer.
worst time we ever had in our studio. I think you left to holiday to Italy. You was having 10 kilo less.
Yet they return with a third album, Welcome to Tomorrow, with a single of the same name and a fourth singer, Summer.
When did you actually stop making music?
In the middle of the 90s, end of 90s
End
or
of
something.
90s.
They score a few more small hits like The First, The Last, Eternity.
The first, the last, eternity.
Well, there were other priorities. There was a family, there were kids. There was before we were just alone.
For 10, 15 years, we spent every day in the studio. There was nothing else existing. My kid thought I live in a bed. Because when I came home in the morning, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, I go to bed, and the mother said, psh, psh. I was always sleeping, you know, because I did nothing else. But I think you need to be investing everything what you have to be successful. Whatever you do in a creative way, if you do paintings or if you do music, and I'm not ready for this anymore.
Michael and Luca are taking a break. They have enough money, but that does not apply to everyone.
I never got, you know, the money that I was supposed to get. I think Michael and Luca spent all of our money on their bucket list. There was a time they had private planes, they had Lamborghinis, they had villas in Spain. We didn't really have that.
Turbo and Thea are still hanging in there. They perform shows with the hits from back then, even though they don't have official permission from Michael and Luca.
Turbo B.
Good evening,
When we closed, you know, our business with him, he get a lot of money. We said, you cannot go on tour under the name Snap. The name Snap cannot be anywhere. It's not allowed, you know. So if we want to fight, he will be very much in trouble.
Penny stops with the music and decides to live in Los Angeles again. There she ends up in a dark place and becomes addicted to drugs.
That was a tough time for you.
One thing is I couldn't get clean. I couldn't get off the drugs as long as I was in LA. So I went back to Cincinnati, and I got there, my mom had a massive stroke. And so I ended up having to take care of my mom and my grandmother for 6 or 7 years, because I had my mom unplugged. She woke up 3 days later, and she lived for 6 years. So I ended up taking care of her and my grandmother, and as soon as I buried them, the calls started coming from over here.
Penny is back in touch with Michael and Luca. She is going to perform under the name Snap.
But that means that both Turbo and Thea really are not allowed to anymore.
A few months later is when I was talking to her on the phone, and she said, you can no longer go out as Snap. I'm Snap, and that's that. And I was balled up. I started crying. Honestly, I started crying, and I was like, that's not fair, because Turbo and I had been out there holding up the light, touring, you know, putting in the work, you know, and I just felt like the rug was snatched from under my feet.
So Turbo and Thea are still performing under the name of Snap. How do you feel about that?
I mean, you know, I have issues with her now because, you know, her and Turbo are still trying to do shows as Snap. And legally and morally, they're not allowed to.
You can spend your life fighting for something. It's not important for us. You know what I mean? We always want that Penny is happy, that she can do the touring, and she does it perfect. She's really good.
Snap is not just one entity, you know? I mean, that is their business. They created it. They have the right. You know, it's their baby, legally, technically. But it was all of us. You know, it took everybody to create those songs that make the magic of Snap. So a world tour with all of us, the original, authentically, you know, yes, that's the ear candy I would have delivered.
I want to know if you're ready to get this party started. I said, are you ready to get this party started?
Penny now performs as Snap all over the world because the music from back then is just as popular and the cheerful notes are still being used, even by big artists like Dua Lipa.
Music is relatively the same. It's very driven by marketing and record companies. If we listen, there's always the same hooks, same kind of melody, same kind of...
There will always be a new
Sure.
sound. Of course, there will always be.
So why are we not having it right now?
Oh, it will come. It will evolve eventually. I think so. I strongly believe so.
I mean, you know, it's rewarding when you hit the stage and you see those smiling people, and you see people having such a good time. And the universe gave me this gift and this responsibility to make people happy. And there are worse jobs.
Listen, I am 60 years old.
Yeah, I mean, we had a vision. And we had a dream, and we were going for it. A lot of people thought we are crazy.
We did not really think about it.
We never thought about that. We said, we will do music, and we will do great music. This is what we want to do.
And what kind of advice would you give young artists right now in their career?
I would say that if you are not willing to die for it, probably find something else.
Het zou zo leuk zijn als er volgende week nog iemand anders zit. Dat zou zo grappig zijn.